Have you ever felt the urge to visit someone's home, but deep down, something told you not to? That feeling of hesitation? Well, as we get older, some visits could actually be more dangerous than you think. Your time and energy become incredibly valuable, and the wrong people can drain both. In this video, I'm going to share why you should avoid the homes of these 4 types of people no matter how free or available you feel. Trust me, understanding this now could save you from unnecessary stress and health issues down the road. Let's dive in and find out who you should steer clear of. First person to avoid: the negative energy friend. As we get older, our emotional and physical health becomes even more connected. It's no secret that negativity can have a profound effect on our well-being. Constant exposure to negative energy, whether it's complaining, pessimism, or emotional drama, can actually lead to heightened stress levels, anxiety, and even physical symptoms like headaches or fatigue. The older we get, the more important it becomes to surround ourselves with people who uplift and energize us, not drain us. The weight of negativity can impact your heart, mind, and body in ways you may not even realize. Take, for example, the story of Mrs. Green, an 80-year-old woman who lived in a tight-knit neighborhood. She had a friend, Linda, who was always focused on the negative. Whether it was her health problems, her financial struggles, or just general complaints about life, Linda seemed to always be in a bad mood. At first, Mrs. Green didn't think much of it. She'd visit Linda regularly, hoping to provide support. But after a while, she started feeling unusually exhausted and stressed after their visits. It was as if the moment she stepped into Linda's house, all her positive energy drained out of her. Negativity can weigh heavily on your emotional and physical health, especially as you get older. Over time, it can lead to a decrease in motivation, lower mood, and even difficulty sleeping. Mrs. Green eventually realized that every time she left Linda's house, she felt more anxious and less at peace. It wasn't just the conversations, it was the constant undercurrent of frustration and hopelessness that seemed to follow her friend around. This started affecting her own outlook on life and even contributed to some of her own health issues. What made matters worse was that Mrs. Green was spending more time trying to help Linda feel better, without realizing that she was compromising her own well-being. As we age, we need to be careful not to fall into the trap of sacrificing our mental health just to keep others happy. And this is especially true when it comes to people who constantly bring negativity into our lives. It's okay to support your friends, but it's also essential to protect your peace. So, if you find yourself around a negative energy friend, take a step back and assess how their energy is affecting you. If your visits leave you feeling drained, anxious, or upset, it might be time to reconsider how often you see them. Remember, as we age, it's vital to create environments that nurture our mental and physical health. And that means being mindful of who we surround ourselves with. Choose your company wisely. Second person to avoid: the overly demanding relative. As we grow older, our time and energy become increasingly precious. We've all had that one relative who constantly expects something from us, whether it's time, attention, or help. At first, it might feel like a natural part of family dynamics to lend a hand or be there for them. But when the requests never stop, it can start to take a toll on your emotional and physical well-being. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you're being pulled in so many directions, and if you're not careful, this kind of constant pressure can lead to burnout. It's essential to recognize when a relationship has become too demanding and find a balance between helping out and protecting your own peace. Take the example of Mr. Thompson, a retired 75-year-old who always prided himself on being the go-to person in his family. He had a niece who frequently called him for help with everything, from fixing household issues to picking up groceries. While Mr. Thompson was happy to lend a hand in the beginning, it soon became clear that his niece expected more and more. She would call him at all hours of the day, sometimes for trivial things, and when he couldn't drop everything to help, she would get upset. Eventually, Mr. Thompson felt like he was constantly on call, sacrificing his own plans and even his rest just to meet her needs. Over time, this pressure started to wear on him. What used to be small, occasional favors now felt like a never-ending series of demands. Mr. Thompson found himself exhausted, not just physically but emotionally as well. He began to dread the phone ringing, knowing it was his niece needing something else. The constant barrage of requests started to make him feel as if his own life didn't matter anymore, and his time was no longer his own. It's important to protect your time and energy, and constantly being pulled into demanding situations can quickly lead to burnout. When we're young, we might have the energy to help everyone, but as we get older, it's crucial to set boundaries and recognize when we're giving more than we can afford to. Mr. Thompson eventually realized that he had to have a conversation with his niece, setting clear boundaries around when and how he could help. By doing so, he not only protected his own well-being, but also helped maintain a healthier, more balanced relationship. If you find yourself in a similar situation, take a step back and evaluate how much of your time and energy is being consumed by an overly demanding relative. It's okay to say no, or to establish limits on how much you can give. After all, your health, happiness, and peace of mind should always come first. Protecting your time is a form of self-care, and it's never too late to start setting boundaries that will help you maintain a fulfilling and stress-free life as you age. Third person to avoid: the disrespectful neighbor. As we get older, creating a peaceful environment at home becomes more important than ever. Your home should be a sanctuary, a place where you can relax, unwind, and feel safe. Unfortunately, there are times when neighbors can disrupt this sense of peace, especially when they don't respect your boundaries or privacy. A disrespectful neighbor can bring unnecessary stress, create tension, and even affect your health if their behavior is constant. It's vital to recognize when a situation with a neighbor is no longer healthy and take the necessary steps to protect your space and your well-being. Let's look at the story of Mrs. Roberts, an elderly woman in her late 70s who lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood. She had a neighbor, Mr. Harris, who didn't seem to understand personal boundaries. Mr. Harris would often show up unannounced at her door, asking for small favors or simply to chat. While at first, Mrs. Roberts didn't mind, it soon became apparent that Mr. Harris had no regard for her time or privacy. He'd knock on her door late in the evening or call her during mealtimes, interrupting her daily routine. Even worse, he'd often wander into her yard without permission, disrupting her gardening or enjoying her outdoor space. Living in a peaceful environment is crucial as we age. Constant disturbances from a disrespectful neighbor can cause unnecessary stress, making it hard to enjoy the simple pleasures of retirement or life at home. Mrs. Roberts, over time, began to feel anxious whenever she heard a knock on the door, fearing it would be Mr. Harris once again. What used to be her quiet, peaceful refuge was slowly turning into a battleground for her privacy and peace of mind. The more Mr. Harris disregarded her boundaries, the more overwhelmed and unsettled she felt. Your home should be a place of comfort and safety, not a battleground for disrespect or constant irritation. As we age, our tolerance for stress decreases, and the last thing we need is a neighbor who continuously invades our personal space. Mrs. Roberts eventually had to sit down with Mr. Harris and kindly but firmly explain her need for space and quiet. She set clear boundaries, and thankfully, Mr. Harris respected them going forward. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary for her well-being. If you're dealing with a neighbor who consistently disrespects your boundaries, it's time to assess the situation and take action. Don't be afraid to speak up and assert your needs. Whether it's having a direct conversation or finding ways to limit your interactions, it's important to protect your peace and ensure that your home remains a safe, serene place. After all, as we get older, there's nothing more precious than the tranquility and comfort of our own space. Fourth person to avoid: the toxic friend. As we age, our tolerance for drama and unnecessary conflict becomes much lower. It's crucial to surround ourselves with people who bring peace, joy, and support into our lives, not those who stir up trouble and create chaos. Toxic friends, those who thrive on drama, manipulate situations, or constantly bring negativity, can have a devastating impact on your mental and emotional health. Being around toxic people can slowly drain your happiness and well-being, something you can't afford as you get older. It's important to recognize these toxic friendships early and make the decision to distance yourself from them to maintain your peace of mind. Take the story of Mr. Davis, an 82-year-old gentleman who had a long-time friend, Carol, who always seemed to create conflict. Carol had a habit of gossiping, stirring up tension between people, and dragging Mr. Davis into situations that had nothing to do with him. One afternoon, Mr. Davis decided to pay Carol a visit, thinking it would be a nice, quiet afternoon. However, as soon as he arrived, Carol began to vent about her latest drama at work, complaining about her colleagues and stirring up negativity. The conversation quickly escalated into a heated discussion about other people's personal lives, with Carol pressuring Mr. Davis to take sides. Before he knew it, Mr. Davis was caught in the middle of a conflict that he had no interest in being a part of. Not only did he feel uncomfortable, but the situation also left him feeling emotionally drained. What was supposed to be a pleasant visit turned into an exhausting and stressful encounter. Afterward, Mr. Davis couldn't shake the bad feeling that lingered from the drama. He realized that being around Carol only seemed to drag him into unnecessary stress and made him feel more upset than he had been before the visit. The unfortunate truth is that toxic friends can have a deep, lasting impact on your emotional and even physical health. Stress from drama and conflict has been linked to a variety of health problems, including high blood pressure, anxiety, and sleep issues, things that are harder to recover from as we get older. Mr. Davis soon understood that avoiding Carol's toxic influence was vital to protecting his peace and well-being. He began to limit his interactions with her, choosing instead to spend more time with friends who were uplifting and supportive. If you find yourself in a similar situation with a friend who constantly brings drama into your life, it's time to take a step back. Evaluate the emotional toll their negativity is taking on you, and don't hesitate to set boundaries. It's okay to distance yourself from toxic people, especially when you realize that the energy they bring into your life does more harm than good. At this stage of life, the focus should be on peace, joy, and health, things that toxic friends just can't offer. Conclusion. So remember, as we get older, protecting your time, energy, and peace of mind becomes more important than ever. Whether it's the negative energy friend, the overly demanding relative, the disrespectful neighbor, or the toxic friend, surrounding yourself with people who respect your boundaries and bring positivity into your life is crucial. Don't be afraid to distance yourself from those who drain you. Your well-being comes first. Thank you for watching, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you agree with the types of people to avoid, drop a 9 in the comments. If you think there's someone else to add to the list, comment with a 0. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.